are going to be submitting reports to you. So this is going to be a quick tutorial on how to access those reports and how to grade them using the online software. So you'll notice that if you scroll down to Grade Center, there is a Smart View section for each TA section. So for example, clicking on Daniela should have a view of all of her students in her one group. And this is the case because she entered her name under the TA column. So if you haven't entered your name yet, I encourage you to do so. And her name happens to match the name that's in the Smart View. If you've entered a different name that does not match here, I encourage you to go in and change then the title of your Smart View. And this can be done by clicking on Manage, Smart Views, and clicking on Edit. So then Camilo is welcome to go in and edit this value to match what he's typed into the TA column. Now for actual online correction, I'm going to show you a document that I had posted as a demo student. So as we're scrolling through the full grade center, we can see that some students have actually submitted a lab report already, given by the symbol that means that it needs correction. I'm going to keep going down. There we go. And so the report, I have actually submitted it. So the grade is, let's call official, or better yet, once it's been submitted, the student is able to then see it in the grade column. So I'm going to right click on this and click on attempt. For some reason, I have to do it again. Great. So the document pops up as well as all of my comments here. I am going to start off by trying to maximize the space here because this is not a lot of working, particularly for reading the document, let alone for feedback. First tip, close out that box. Secondly, this is not intuitive at all, but I can hide this course menu by clicking on it. And then I can also go up to assignment details and click on this right arrow. And now I have plenty of room to go through and read the labs and provide feedback. I do encourage you to read several of your students' lab reports before you start assigning actual values to them. But as you're going through and assigning feedback, you've got a couple of different options for you. You can add comments, you can draw, highlight, add text, and whatnot. Using the simple draw tool, you can put an item through, and it's going to ask you then if you wish to cancel it or complete it. You can complete it and then move on. If, however, you decide that you are not a fan of it anymore, you can right-click on it to remove the drawing. Because you'll notice at the top there is no erase button, so you are going to need to right-click on things and click on remove. Going through, offering feedback, there's a good flow chart in there. Discussion, I've highlighted the key steps that students have discussed. But there are no discussion of errors and there are no questions. So the student unfortunately lost a significant amount of points. So let's talk about points, because once we have corrected the lab report and offered feedback, or read the lab report I should say, and offered feedback, the next thing to do is assign points. So I'm going to go scroll back over here and click on this white arrow. That pops up the assignment details. Now this is not intuitive at all, but to access the rubric that I've created for this experiment, you need to click down on this bar. To view the rubric, you have two options. You can view this in line alongside the document in a shortened, abbreviated form, or you can view the entire rubric. And so here you have this opportunity to read the rubric and see what kind of criteria matches up with what points. You can offer feedback right in there, if there are some areas that are missing, melting point description in terms of methodology. Some things may have been missing. Nevertheless, I can scroll through, I can save it. Perfect. Or I can look at this inline, which gives me just the point value that I can check off without the descriptions. I'll also let you know that most of these values will range only from 4 to 4 because this was set up in a rubric with a varied point system. So for example, for the accomplished section in the goals and methodology, you have not just 5, but you have the option that ranges from 4 to 6. So I chose 5, and that's that. So assigning points as you're going through your rubric, students will have access to this rubric. They will be able to visualize it. I can leave general feedback at the bottom, but generally I have now gone through and indicated where the points are, so the system adds it up, realizes that it's 34 out of 60. I can then go through, save the rubric. That brings me back to this page where I can save the draft of my correction, which I encourage you to do before you start marking all of the lab reports. It might be worthwhile to save drafts of a few different students' reports before assigning final values. And when you're sure, then you can click on Submit. And when that is done, students will then have access to the corrections that you've made. And that is, then I have access to the next document. So if it's in my Smart View, this is probably going to be my next student, but since I'm not in the Smart View, I have access to a student that does not belong to me. And that's that. So if you've got any questions, just let me know and I'll be able to help.